You ever look at a pile of snow and think, well, there goes 100 grand and a woman's freedom? Yeah, neither did I until a winter morning in Cedar Falls, Iowa changed the entire trajectory of my life and the life of every single neighbor around me. I mean, I never asked to be the neighborhood legend, let alone the guy who took down a corrupt HOA president. But life's got a hell of a sense of humor, doesn't it? So here's the real story. Picture it, bitter January snow still coming down sideways, and I'm standing there at 6:45 a.m. in 3 layers, clutching a half-broken shovel, staring at my driveway that's buried under 2 feet of fresh powder. If you ever want to feel both young and old at the same time, try shoveling your own driveway after a blizzard. My back was screaming before I finished the first stretch. By the time I cleared a path to the street, I'd lost feeling in 2 fingers and was bargaining with God for a hot shower and a cup of coffee. I did what everyone with a brain and a mortgage does. I chucked the snow onto my own lawn. Not the sidewalk, not the street, not into some neighbor's flower beds. My grass, my problem, right? Wrong. Turns out in Meadowbrook Estates, nothing is just your problem. I didn't think twice about it, honestly, just tossed the snow, admired my lumpy little white mounds, and went to work at the hardware store. That night, walking up to my house, I spot this neon orange envelope stuck to my door. You ever get a bill or a letter and instantly know it's bad news? That was this. I peeled it off, and sure enough, violation notice, $300 fine for improper snow disposal, aesthetic disruption to neighborhood standards. I read it like 3 times, thinking maybe I was hallucinating from the cold. Nope. They fined me for putting snow on my own grass. I called the number on the letter, and Patricia, the board president, answers. Her voice sounded like she'd been annoyed since 1997. I tried to reason with her, explain it's my property, my lawn snow's got to go somewhere. She quoted the HOA covenant section, 12 paragraph 8, as if it was the 10 commandments. All visible areas must maintain standards. Large piles of snow are unsightly and reflect poorly on the community. I asked where she expected me to put it, and she flat out said, "That's not the HOA's concern," and hung up on me. I stood there in my kitchen, stunned, angry, and just a little bit embarrassed at how fast things escalated. But here's where things start to get fun. I went for a walk the next morning just to see if I'd really done something so out of line. 8 other houses. 8 had snow piles just like mine. So I took pictures, logged the addresses, and called the HOA again. This time Brenda answered. "Oh, Mr. Quinn, your violation was reported by Patricia. If you think other houses are in violation, you can report them." Patricia. Of course. 3 months before, Patricia accused me of letting my dog crap on her yard. Joke's on her, I don't even own a dog. But she swore I was lying, threatened I'd regret it, and here we were. Now, I'm not the vengeful type. Not really. But I paid the fine because, let's be honest, I couldn't risk a lien on my house. Then I spent that whole evening reading every last page of the HOA covenant. I'm talking 73 pages of legal nonsense about mailboxes and fence heights. But buried in all that mess was a rule board members had to maintain the HOA building to the same standards as the rest of us. The gears started turning. A week later, another snowstorm rolls in. I go out early, shovel my driveway, but this time I engineer a 3-foot-high berm along the side of my yard, facing away from the street. You could have called it a statement piece. Monday, another orange envelope. Another $300 fine this time, with a picture of my snow wall and a note about deliberate aesthetic violations. They also put me on the watch list, whatever that meant. But now I was in it. Every night that week after work, I'd add to my berm. Packed it solid, extended it, but more importantly, I got clever. My house sits higher than the HOA office, way higher. And there's this natural slope out back down to a drainage ditch. So I went to work. Used my employee discount at the hardware store, bought some PVC pipe, a little concrete mix landscaping fabric, normal midnight drainage project stuff. My buddy Derek asked what I was up to. I told him, just making sure the spring melt doesn't flood my basement. He nodded like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. I spent the whole weekend rigging up a secret system. Dug a trench, laid pipe, camouflaged everything. I even built in a little valve so I could reroute some of the snow melt should the urge strike me. And that urge, it was coming. Sure enough, February warms up. Sun's out, snow's melting, and I'm outside poking holes in my berm, just helping nature along. The main pipe sent most of the meltwater down to the drainage ditch. But the side pipe, well, it snaked all the way to the back of the HOA office building. See, their basement had an old rusted window, well partially sealed at best. All it took was a little redirected runoff and a warm spell. By Friday, the HOA basement was flooded. Decades of their records gone. The next Monday, everyone in the neighborhood got a letter, emergency board meeting attendance mandatory, and a looming $1,500 special assessment to cover the damages. The place was packed. People were mad furious even. Patricia tried to blame the weather insurance wouldn't pay, and now every homeowner owed real money. Janet from 3 doors down called her out. "Patricia, you've been board president for years. Isn't the building your responsibility?" Patricia snapped back. "If you don't like it, you shouldn't have bought in an HOA." That meeting was a circus. The vote on the assessment split the neighborhood down the middle. Me, I sat quiet, biding my time. I could see Patricia sweating she'd have to pay too. Karma, right? But she wasn't done with me. Next thing I know, she's at my door snapping photos demanding to inspect my yard for unauthorized drainage modifications. I told her to pound sand. HOA rules say she needs 48 hours notice and my permission. I called her bluff and she stomped off fuming. Still, I wasn't taking chances. That night I dug up my valve system, filled in the hole, and made the yard look untouched. The inspection came and went. Patricia brought a drainage consultant, Mark from Henderson Landscaping. He poked around, checked the grade, shrugged, and told her, "Looks standard to me." She was livid. Threatened to dig up my whole yard, but the rules were clear. No court order, no excavation. No. She retaliated by burying me in violation notices, tall grass, when my yard looked like a golf course mailbox, alignment, the color of my front door, $1,200 in fines in a month. But I documented everything, appealed every charge, and started talking to my neighbors. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd targeted. Janet, Robert, and Sarah. None of them fans of Patricia's reign. With the special assessment and the never-ending fines, I hit my limit. I decided to run for HOA president. But first I had to pay down enough bogus fines to qualify. I fought each charge, filed appeals, and for the first time the rest of the board had to vote. 5 fines were overturned. The rest I paid just to keep my record clean. And then I campaigned like my sanity depended on it. Door to door after work and on weekends I talked to everyone. People wanted change, but they were scared of Patricia. "If you don't win, she'll ruin you," an old-timer warned. "Then I better win," I told him. But here's where the real twist drops. While preparing my platform, I requested to see the HOA financial records, something every homeowner has the right to do. Amanda, the board secretary, helped me get them. And what I found was a mess. The annual budget had ballooned. Almost half went to administrative expenses and board discretionary funds. There were consulting fees to a company called Morehouse Management Solutions, Patricia's husband's business. Landscaping invoices to Mark's company for jobs that never happened. It was a classic embezzlement scheme hiding in plain sight. I took all this to Grace, a lawyer downtown. She looked it over and said, "Win the election first, then blow the whistle." So I did. On election day, people came out in droves. Turnout hit 73%, highest ever. Results: Patricia 112 votes, me 208. I could hardly believe it. I was the new HOA president. First thing I did, I called for a full audit, hired a forensic accountant. Amanda and I spent weeks digging up everything. The pattern was obvious: $93,000 in fake consulting fees, most funneled straight to Patricia's husband. Old landscaping assessments collected, spent on nothing. When we confronted Gerald, he looked shell-shocked. He really had no idea. I took it to the police. Detective Morrison handled the case. Patricia was arrested, charged with theft and fraud. She tried to fight it, but eventually caved, pled guilty, got prison time, and was ordered to pay everything back with interest. Her marriage imploded. The house was sold. Gerald moved away, started over, tried to make amends. And me, I handed back $1,500 to every homeowner from the special assessment. Changed the HOA rules: no more vague aesthetic violations, no more weaponized fines. All major spending now required board approval and full transparency. Suddenly, the whole neighborhood felt lighter, freer, even a little proud. A year and a half later, the place runs smooth. People come to meetings. Neighbors talk. No more orange envelopes, no more fines for snow on your own lawn. The joke now is, don't mess with Lucas, he'll flood your basement and take down your presidency. But that's not it at all. I never set out to be a hero. I just wanted to shovel my driveway and not get harassed. Funny how life works. You know, the real lesson snuck up on me. You think you're fighting over a pile of snow, but sometimes that's just the spark. Underneath, there's power, money, grudges, and a whole system that needs a spotlight. All it took was one person pushing back at the right moment, one neighbor tired of being bullied deciding enough was enough. And that rippled out, changing everything. People ask if I'd do it again, knowing the stress, the threats, the paperwork, the years it took to fix things. I say yes because the alternative is letting corruption win, letting someone with a little power and a big grudge control your life. I'm just a hardware store guy from Iowa, but I learned the hard way, you've got to stand up when something's wrong, even if it's just about a snow pile. Now every winter I shovel my driveway, throw the snow wherever I damn well please, and wave to my neighbors, some of whom still send me thank you cards. The HOA works the money safe, and my only worry is whether we'll get another blizzard before April. But let me leave you with this. What would you have done? Would you have paid the fines and kept your head down? Or would you have pushed back, even if it meant fighting the system? Where's the line between following rules and standing up for what's right? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me your stories. Let's hear about the times you had to fight back or when you wish you had. Because sometimes a pile of snow is just a pile of snow, and sometimes it's the start of justice finally catching up with those who think they're untouchable.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.